welcome to another edition of Office Hours, weekly live show brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs, a national network of veteran, military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to growing our ecosystem. I'm your host, the one and only IRON Mike Steadman, coming to you from the beautiful city of Newark, New Jersey. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Amy Morrison, and our guest today, Mr. Bryan Stewart. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning. Great to be here.
I'm feeling energized. All right, so I'm going to ask you two things, all right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you coming into today's show? And then also let me know something that y'all are grateful for. I'll start.
Love it.
Yeah, I'll go. All right, so I'm
Ladies
coming
first.
in.
Go ahead, Amy.
I'm
Go
coming
ahead.
I'm coming in at a 10. I got up, got my workout in. I'm feeling energized, and I'm grateful for just being an entrepreneur, man. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty going on. I see people getting laid off, all kind of stuff. But I'm thankful that I've been spending the last few years developing this skill set of, always making a way out of no way through entrepreneurship and innovation. So that's what I'm thankful for today.
Nice.
What about you, Bryan?
I'll say I'm a strong 9. I always got room for improvement in my life, so I'm a strong 9 today. I'm thankful for two things. One, Amy and I were talking before the show started about it's a beautiful day here in Birmingham, Alabama. I got both my windows open, 62 degrees, sunny, the birds are chirping. So I'm just thankful to be enjoying a beautiful day like this. And also thankful for programs like Bunker Labs and, things like this that help spread the word and connect veteran entrepreneurs.
Love it. What about you, Amy?
Me, I'm going to say 8. Not getting much sleep these days with the children. And I am grateful for this office space because, again, children. So it's nice to have somewhere quiet to go and get some work done. So.
Man, nothing like having these co-working spaces. I've been working from home. I have a co-working space about 15 minutes away that I work out of, my little incubator where my podcast studio is at. But some days I'm like, I'm trying to save that commute. So sometimes I work from home, but there's nothing like getting out of home, man. I know, especially with COVID, people have been locked inside. Absolutely. So, man, we're going to have a great show today. I'm excited to chop it up with my man, Bryan, fellow Marine, entrepreneur in the trenches like many of you. But before we do that, I'm going to pass it over to Amy to share any updates that are taking place in the bunker.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, we got a couple things. So today we opened up applications for the USAA. Okay, pitch competition. You'd think I'd know by now. They've been a funder of ours for like years. So last year we did this pitch competition to celebrate their 100th anniversary. So it was so successful, we're going to do it again. So this year we're only doing one pitch competition in October, but applications open today. So you can participants compete for cash prizes and access to USAA and Bunker Labs network. And eligible companies will be considered for future investment by USAA. So you're competing for a $50,000 cash prize and network access. And then you can learn more at bunkerlabs.org/USAA-pitch. Okay. And then the only other things I got to talk about is the Bunker Labs Access to Capital blog post is still up on the blog, featured blog post. So if you want to learn more about that, that's on the blog. And then just generally, as always, I like to promote the blog because we've got a lot of good stuff there. And we are working on a resource page, so it'll be easier to find those like top useful, access to capital, VC stuff, the calendar of all the pitch competitions. So it'll be easier to find all the top blog posts coming soon. And
listen,
that's it.
If y'all are looking to raise capital, especially early stage founders, you need non-dilutive capital, you need to check out that list. You need to spread it around. All right. I'm telling you, this is one of the benefits of being in this ecosystem. We're already 5 months into the new year, and there's still a lot of opportunities available out there. I've heard nothing but positive things from the Rice pitch battle, which was absolutely amazing. I was at Milvet. I was at MIC last year. Make sure y'all are getting out and taking advantage of these opportunities. So, again, this is how you make a way out of no way. We all know vets need access to capital. Well, check out that blog post. Start signing up for these events and get your butts out there. All right. Without further ado, we're joined by, again, my man, Mr. Bryan Stewart. And this is what I like about Bryan already. Before we go live on every show, I always ask a guest, what does a win look like for you? And 99.9% of the time, vets come on here and they tell me that, hey, they just want to help someone, right? If they can help one veteran, accomplish something or find a mentor or whatever, that's what it's all about. And so without further ado, Bryan, welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you, Mike. Good to be here, man. Appreciate it.
So please take a moment, introduce yourself to everyone. Let us know what you got going on.
Yeah, Bryan Stewart. I live here in Birmingham, Alabama with my beautiful wife, Erin, our 2 adult kids. Spent 6.5 years in the Marine Corps, as Mike said, as an infantry officer, and then have been in the healthcare industry more or less the last 20 plus years. But done a lot of different things: medical devices, diagnostics, wound care, behavioral health. I've been fortunate enough to be the CEO of 2 other private companies. And then main focus for today, the last 3 years have really been head down, full steam ahead as an entrepreneur, building a medical device company with some great co-founders called HDO Health. And that company is we're working on a specialty junctional tourniquet to help prevent people from bleeding to death from traumatic junctional wounds. So you think someone stepping on an IED, getting shot, bleeding out from their femoral artery. It's a really awesome device. It's going to save lives around the world.
How did you see the opportunity for this device?
I would say it was fate. I went to the Ohio State University, go Bucks, and I got involved with the entrepreneur ecosystem at Ohio State, the Keenan Center for Entrepreneurship. Originally, I connected with them at the advice of my mentor at the time to become a coach or, help other entrepreneurs based on my background in sales and marketing, strategy and that. But quickly it evolved to, hey, well, we think you might be a good entrepreneur based on your background. So one thing led to another, ended up looking through all the available technologies to license. And this particular technology quickly came to the top of the list. So formed an LLC, spent a couple months negotiating with Ohio State to license the technology. And then, partnered up with my 3 co-founders, one of which is a PhD professor at Ohio State. Another one is a physician, emergency room doc, who's also a SWAT medic. And then the 4th co-founder is a career law enforcement officer from the state of Ohio, who has been almost 20 years with the Ohio State Highway Patrol, who is also a SWAT medic. So the original idea was the doc and the SWAT medic for the Highway Patrol came up with the idea. It intersected with the PhD at Ohio State through a capstone engineering project that evolved to me getting involved as the business lead, as I mentioned, forming the company, licensing technology, and raising some non-dilutive capital to get us where we're at today.
That's great. It sounds like that's a spin out, right? And I've talked to quite a few entrepreneurs. There's these university programs that are available, these research labs, and so, man, I'm really excited about what you're doing. I think there's another opportunity for our viewers to think about, looking for partners and collaborations out there and seeing how can you mirror your experience to potentially spin out an idea.
Absolutely. Ohio State's a great example. I live here in Birmingham. The University of Alabama, Birmingham is a huge program. Most large universities have these things, but you got to go look for them. They're not necessarily out there on social media saying, hey, come license the technology, but they're out there with literally catalogs full of technology that they're looking for someone to bring to market. So you don't necessarily have to have a great idea. Go find someone else's great idea and just be a partner to help bring it to market.
Now, one of the things I know you want to talk about is mentorship. Before we do that, I have to ask you, you've got all this corporate experience. You've been a CEO. How different is it taking something from scratch on a Google Doc and turning it into a startup?
It's a great question. I would say my best analogy is like getting kicked in the groin. It's one thing having the security and, worked at some fabulous companies like Medtronic and Biomet, large companies where, great resources, but it's a whole different ball game when it's just you and maybe some co-founders and some grant funding to push the ball forward. Every day is a challenge. The glamour of being an entrepreneur, I think, wears off quickly. As we chatted right before the meeting, it's just a grind, but it's a choice. It's a strategic decision I made in my own career that, those other things are great and, had learned a lot in those things, but really want to make a difference building an enterprise, and particularly this one where we know the device we're going to bring to market is going to help save a life. So for me, as a personal legacy, as an entrepreneur or as a leader, or even as just a person, knowing I had some small part in developing and bringing a device to the market that's going to help save a life, you can't really put a price tag on that. Certainly, we want to be successful from a financial perspective for ourselves and our investors and the university and all that, but that's in some ways secondary to, hey, we're building something that's going to make a true difference.
I appreciate you sharing. It's a hell of a thing to build something from scratch, right? Like
it is,
You got to get momentum going. Jim Collins describes it as turning a giant heavy flywheel. And then, there's some days you show up and you're like, I don't know what to do with my hands. What I've known is that like, the more I've done this, the more I just realize like, this is what it is as an entrepreneur. Gotta make sure you got some sales activities going. We call it profit generating activities, right? You're, business is a contact sport. So you're out there shaking hands, kissing babies, You're writing strategies, white papers, and the Google Docs. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs think that a lot of first-time founders, right, get caught up in hype and all this other stuff. But you and I both know that the real entrepreneurship is done on those Google Docs. It's done in that email. It's done, taking the product out to market, jumping on sales calls. And it ain't always glamorous. Super tedious, but you got to keep showing up.
I think that's the key, is just, even days when you don't feel like it, or when it's one no after another, or one more obstacle, one more problem, one more whatever, is just keep your eye on the prize and keep moving forward. I think that's for every entrepreneur. Like, you read anybody that's been successful. That's the key, is just keep after it, because it's easy to give up.
What made you want to talk about mentorship today?
It's just in a huge area of passion for me. I've been a mentor, well, hopefully people would say my whole life, but, specifically been a mentor on the Veterati platform. If your listeners are familiar with Veterati, if that's come up, but I've been a 6+ year mentor with Veterati. Just love the interactions of helping not only other veterans, but spouses, or really other individuals learn and grow. And I think for me, it's the desire to pay it forward. Like, I wish I would have been humble enough and smart enough to find a mentor when I was earlier in my career. I'll just say it like that. So wanting to be in a position where I can share lessons learned, battle scars, wisdom, ideas with someone to help them be better, do better, move faster. But equally as important, it's a selfish thing. I get just as much, if not more, from every mentoring conversation. So it's kind of a two-way street. Yeah, maybe sharing knowledge and networks with people, and I do it readily. I probably do that second to my entrepreneurial ventures. I mentor on quite a few platforms, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about some of them to make your listeners aware of them, particularly the ones that are focused on veterans. But that's a long answer. Short answer is just an area of passion for me. And in terms of like life legacy, I want that to be one of the things I was known for. Man, he just paid it forward freely, serving others as a mentor. And every time someone called or emailed, he was there to help, is really what I'm trying to do.
It's funny you mentioned how it's a two-sided streak, because, for me, go to a place like the Naval Academy, right? And then you transition out.
Yeah.
And there's all these alumni that you want to start connecting with, and they mentor you, but then you realize you're pouring into them also. And, I think in the military, we have that hierarchy, right? Where it's like, this person is this rank and you're here. But at a certain point with mentorship, it's kind of like this, where you're like supporting each other. And that was real insightful for me to see, because it was weird when my mentors actually started to come back to me for advice, right? And then you realize, like, nobody has it figured out. We're all just trying to, do the best we can with what we have. We all have our knowledge, experience, expertise. And it's all about, I call it lifting as we climb, helping each other.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned that. One of the other things that I do, I'm a part of a team called Victory Strategies. Awesome organization that does leadership development, executive coaching, strategy, keynotes, that sort of stuff. But we literally had our team call yesterday morning, and this was the topic: coaching versus mentoring, and what's the difference between those two words. And on that team, very fortunate that, there's a number of retired general officers, quite a few Top Gun pilots, both from the Air Force, Navy, some Navy SEALs, Army folks. Clearly folks with strong resumes who've led incredibly large organizations. And this was the discussion, exactly what you said. Sometimes that can be intimidating for a potential mentee, like, oh my gosh, I'm being mentored by General Rand, who was a 4-star general in the Air Force. But in my opinion, the leadership principles are all universal. Just someone may have more time on the tracks, but eventually, to your point, it's about one feeding one, and being humble to be open to learning, not coming at it with, well, let me tell you how I did it, and let me share all my knowledge, but being open and say, well, here's what I've learned. Here's the mistakes I've made, and being open to listen to your mentee as well. I think, anyway, so it's funny you mentioned it, because it just came up. We talked for an hour yesterday about the same thing.
So how do you define the difference between mentorship and coaching?
I think coaching is like the commercial term. If you go out and search, hey, I'm looking for a coach, that's where the commercial world goes. But I think when you get in that relationship, even if you hire an executive coach, in my mind, what you really want is someone who can be your mentor. Someone, my analogy is it's like a tour guide, where you learn, like, well, hey, here's where Mike is at right now. Here's where Mike wants to go. How can I partner with him and be his tour guide on his journey? Because ultimately it's his journey. It's not my journey. But I can point out, oh, no, don't go that way. I've been that way. It's a dead end. Or, oh, you don't want to go that way in the dark because you might get beat up or whatever, whatever the analogy is. My whole point is like being a tour guide that understands your language, understands the landscape, and is ultimately there trying to help you get to where you want to go. Not where the tour guide wants to go, but where the mentee wants to go. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my difference.
It does. And I like that because when I think of like even just boxing coaching, right?
Yeah.
Running the gym, you're a mentor, you're a father figure, you're a nutritionist, a strength coach. You fill a lot of different roles. And so I really appreciate your insight on that.
Yeah,
now you have volunteered or you provide mentorship through a couple different platforms that are available to the veteran military spouse community. Can you talk about some of those?
Would love to. Yeah. As I mentioned, I've been with Veterati for 6+ years and kind of one of their rock star mentors who've done over 100 hours. But anyway, it's a great platform. It's free. Obviously, it's great to find mentors with all kinds of backgrounds, and the technology itself makes the process seamless and very easy. The other ones I want to mention are MedTech Vets. Obviously, my career's been in healthcare, so MedTech Vets is one that's specific for helping veterans who want to make a transition into life sciences, biotech, medical device. Great organization, great program, provides a lot of value for folks who are wanting to get into that. I've also do one called Ardent Mentoring. My faith is very important to me. So Ardent is a platform not exclusive to veterans, but certainly would apply to veterans. Their main focus is on mentoring around social entrepreneurship, wanting to create an enterprise that does good in the world. So Ardent Mentoring is another platform that connects mentors who have that focus with mentees who are looking for that as well. Another one is American Corporate Partners. That's a 12-month program designed for mentees where you meet once a month with your, mentor, and it's really about guiding them along their career transition. I have a great mentee that I've been meeting with for 9 months in this current cohort. And it's just amazing to see his progression, not only in his company, but what I've learned from him, literally every call in comparison to what I'm giving him. It's an unfair trade, really. So those are just a few. I think the other one is the Honor Foundation, although that one's a little more specific to folks that come from the special operations community. But I've been a mentor with the Honor Foundation for 2 years or so, and I've had a couple of mentees in that. The takeaway is there's no shortage of programs. There's no shortage of opportunities for veterans to not go it alone, to try to figure it out. All you got to do is, number one, listen to things like this, and you get this stuff just kind of thrown at you for free. So the takeaway is don't do your journey alone. If you're in transition or you're seeking to become an entrepreneur, find a community, find a program, find multiple programs. And everything I mentioned is free. There's no cost to a veteran for anything that I just talked about. So there really is no excuse. The only investment required is time and effort to go and find it and put yourself in a place to learn and grow from a mentor.
For those veterans that are entrepreneurs and that are looking for mentorship and have come to you that you've worked with, what is it that they're really seeking? Why are they reaching out for mentorship?
In some cases, it's like they don't know where to start or where to begin, or they have an idea. I had one mentee that came, we connected on LinkedIn, had a Veterati call, and then ended up doing an Ardent mentoring platform where he's got a great company. His name is Patrick, and he's got a company called Boots to Cyber. Awesome background in cyber, wants to help veterans by helping transitioning veterans become experts in cybersecurity and get hired. But he was kind of stuck on, okay, I've got this idea. I've got some co-founders, but what do we do next? Who do I talk to? What do I do? And then I think there's specific programs. Obviously, shout out to Bunker Labs for everything they do to help veteran entrepreneurs and create community in that. And then there are other ones like Warrior Rising. I did Warrior Rising, was an awesome experience. Their Vet to CEO program, and our company was fortunate enough to do their business shower. Great connections, great support, great community. The key takeaway is, just find a community and plug in. I don't know if that answers your question, but a lot of times it's just, for veteran entrepreneurs, they're starting is like, well, where do I start? And maybe in some cases, it's just reassurance. Like, yeah, you may not have all the answers. You may not know where you're going to get the money. You may not know what tomorrow brings, but just do it. So sometimes I think they just want some affirmation that says, okay, I'm not making a mistake. And my answer is always, it's the Warriors are in the center of the ring, not on the sidelines, man. Jump in and go after it.
I'd also like to challenge our listeners too. I was just thinking about myself, right? That's why I enjoy podcasting, because you get super reflective. Well, I have these mentors that I've met physically, whether through the Bunker or some other networks I'm a part of. But man, I get poured into all the time through podcast hosts.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
man, I'm being lazy. I need to get up. Let me cut on my Jocko. Yeah. Discipline equals
Yeah.
freedom. Yeah.
Exactly.
Get back at it.
Yeah.
You know, little Andrew
Yeah.
Huberman. Make sure you get some sleep. You know,
Totally.
and I think that's the benefit now of the internet, right? And the access to all this
Absolutely.
content. And so I challenge our viewers, you know, when you are in those dark places or you need some guidance and mentorship, think outside the box too. Don't be afraid to leverage podcast or, content online. Just try to find the good stuff, not the snackable stuff that's like, feels good in the moment, like a bag of Doritos, but then you feel guilty about it later. And you know what I'm talking about, Bryan. Real people. You and I were both infantry officers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hype out there, but you want to get people that are, just a little bit more positive, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll say, as I mentioned earlier, my faith is important to me. So I have 2 different groups affiliated with my church that I attend every single week. To your point about technology, it is a Zoom group. And I would venture to say I'm probably the youngest guy, and I'm no spring chicken. I'm the youngest guy on that call. But, there are 15, 20 guys on the screen every Wednesday morning at 7 o'clock. And I get mentored by every single one of those guys with life experiences and other things. And then every Thursday evening, I go to another group with 20, 30 guys of all different walks of life, phases of life, ages, races, economic background. Same thing. It's all about, hey, how do I help? The name of the group's Iron Sharpening Iron. It's like, how do I help my brother get better? You know what I mean? So don't go it alone. Don't go it alone,
Yeah, Iron Mike here. That's what I'm all about.
Iron Mike,
sharpens iron. And Michael Persinger, he's one of our viewers that dials in from Canada, Montreal. They don't have as much of a robust veteran support system, entrepreneur or otherwise. But Mike, again, leverage stuff just like this, right? The world is opened up. So mentorship is multifaceted in the digital age, right? So don't be afraid to, listen to some podcasts and stuff. Now what we're going to do is going to transition into book recommendations. Bryan, you got any book recs for our viewers?
I have a couple. Yeah. One of my colleagues at Victory Strategies, her name is, she's a retired Air Force Colonel, Kim KC for Killer Chick Campbell, a fairly well-known A-10 pilot. She just recently released her book called Flying in the Face of Fear. She's an awesome leader. She was, commandant of cadets at the Air Force Academy. She's amazing. So I highly recommend Flying in the Face of Fear. It's all about her journey in leadership, and specifically when her A-10 got shot up really bad over Baghdad and how she sort of limped it back to landing. So that's one. The second one is Objective Secure by Nick Lavery. And actually, I'm going to hold it up. I had the opportunity to meet Nick recently at an event, got a signed copy, and great book about Nick's struggle. If you don't remember, he's the guy, he lost his leg. He was the first active duty individual to come back full time in his role with an above the knee amputation. So a great book about his journey, a great book about leadership, about how to get things done. And his main thing is, I'll just say, Lima Foxtrot Golf. And for your military folks, you may know what that means, but I won't spell out what that means for the civilian audience. Anyway, the last one is Dare to Serve by Cheryl Batchelder, all about servant leadership. She's had a number of corporate roles. Her most recent one was she was the CEO of Popeyes, the chicken restaurant, and took that thing from kind of lagging to leading in the industry. But she's got a great book, lots of free resources on her website that I've used in 2 different companies as the CEO, where we walk through some of her principles every week on our staff meetings. So highly recommend Dare to Serve by Cheryl Batchelder.
Awesome. My book recommendation this week is The Entrepreneur's Playbook, more than 100 proven strategies, tips, and techniques to build a radically successful business by Leonard C. Green with Paula B. Brown. For all you dog crazies out there, I don't know if you're familiar with a company called Blue Buffalo, but Leonard C. Green was one of the founders of Blue Buffalo, as well as the Sobe Drinks. And I am filming a TV show with him called The Veteran Entrepreneur's Playbook, based off of this book. And so we've already filmed my portion here in Newark, and then I got coached by Mr. Green for 2.5 hours last Wednesday. And this book is absolutely amazing. One thing that I really appreciate about it is it's very much more small business focused, right? So, there's a lot of content out there, particularly around tech entrepreneurship these days. But for those of us that are running tech-enabled businesses like myself, podcast agency, or maybe you run that brick and mortar, you're going to get a lot of value out of this book to think about how to create new value for yourself. And also some mindset things. I've got a couple of notes I highlighted this morning sometimes this stuff sounds cliche, but the older I get, the more I realize like it's cliche, but it's memorable. hard work without a game plan is just hard work, right? So you got to prepare for success. And all work ain't equal. And you don't wish for success again, you prepare for it. And so tuning into this, joining the bunker, participating in programs, getting a mentor, tracking your progress. That's how you prepare for success, as opposed to just hoping, wishing, and dreaming. So again, highly, highly, highly recommend this book. I'm going through it. I'm so blown away. I'm punching myself because I didn't read it sooner, but this is a great book. As we close out here, Bryan, where can people find you? How can they follow you and get mentorship?
I'm big on LinkedIn. You can find me, whatever my LinkedIn profile. I think it's Bryan J. Stewart or Bryan Stewart on LinkedIn. You can find me at hdohealth.com. I'm also on Victory Strategies. You can find me there on the team page. Certainly, you can find me on Veterati. I'm there. You just go and search my name or my profile. You'll find me, and you can schedule an hour with me later today or next week if you want. The same with American Corporate Partners, MedTech Vets, those sort of things. But primary would be LinkedIn, HDO Health, or Victory Strategies.
Awesome. And for all our viewers, do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe to the Transition Podcast. Been dropping some great content for you all. I want to acknowledge our sponsors for the podcast, the MetLife Foundation, for making it possible. There's topics you'd like us to cover either here on office hours or on the podcast. Shoot me an email at mike.steadman@bunkerlabs.org or message me directly on LinkedIn at IRON Mike Steadman. Last week, I did a solo episode of Office Hours, particularly focused on branding and positioning and some early stage lead generation. Because, Bryan, here's what I know. Got a lot of, I don't want to call it wannabes, but a lot of people, business is one of these things where everybody pretends like they got it going on all the time.
Yeah.
And, you have people show up to the Bunker Labs or the Veterans in Residence, stand-ups, the little team meetings, but I know they don't have any revenue. They ain't got no leads,
Yeah.
and it's not a passive thing. You got to really, really lean in. And so check out that video from last week. It should be up on YouTube now. But again, we're going to be pushing a lot more content to support you all out there because we know not everyone is in these metropolitan areas. And we want you to know you have access to content and stuff, etc. So we're here to support. Reach out to us online, tag us, comment, whatever. Look forward to seeing you all succeed on your entrepreneurial journey. Till next week, peace, love, and have a